Okay, hey, thank you. Welcome everybody for coming back to another episode of the Progressive Democrats of Howard County podcast. This is episode 3. My name is Jake Burdett. I'm joined by my co-host, as always, Hiruy Hadgu. How you doing today, Hiruy?
Hey Jake, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm excited about the issue of the day for today and what we're going to be talking about on this episode. We are joined today by Ted Stewart from the Police Accountability Task Force of Howard County to talk to us
Hi, Jake.
about.
How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well,
Good.
Ted. And we're going to be talking about police body cameras. And that's something that the PATF is working on right now. But before we dig into that, Ted, could you tell us a little bit about what is the Police Accountability Task Force of Howard County?
Yes, thank you, Jake, for the opportunity to discuss what we're doing. First, let me just tell you a little bit about our group. We're just regular citizens, so we're not politicians or we're just regular citizens. And after George Floyd was murdered last year, I just felt that I couldn't sit around and do nothing. I felt that a response was needed. And I sent out a note to a lot of people that I thought might be interested in doing something as well. When we first started, we didn't know what we were going to do. We just felt that, it was important that we recognize that this is a problem not only around the country, but we need to make sure that we are holding police accountable here in the community in Howard County. So we pulled together a group of people. We currently have around 6 people on our steering committee, and we have 11 organizations that we partnered with. So when we first got together, we talked about the issue of police accountability, and it was not just to do with body cameras. It was to do about community review in terms of police actions within the community. It's about, and part of that review and being able to be accountable, you have to have some way to record it. So there go the body worn cameras. Frankly, I was very surprised to even know that Howard County Police didn't even have body cameras. I just assumed, and I've been living in Howard County for almost 20 years now, and I just assumed that, as prosperous as we are one of the wealthiest counties in the country. And I had assumed that it was not something that I walked down the street and I look at a police officer and I'd say, does he have a body camera? I just assumed he did. When I found that they did not have that, we said that had to be a first priority for our group, because if you can't even document what happened, that's a real problem. So we said, and we're a small group, so we said that we can't tackle everything. So let's tackle one thing at a time. The baseline issue for us is that we have to have accountability and we have to be able to record the interaction between police and the community. So we focused on that, and we petitioned to our county leaders for a period of time, for months, contacting them, making calls, having meetings through Zoom during the 2020 COVID pandemic. And eventually, our request came through. In March of this year, March 24th, in fact, Dr. Ball announced that he would support body-worn cameras for police in Howard County. We were very, very excited about that. And in fact, he invited our group to be part of the announcement. So we went down to the George Howard building. The press was invited, and we were there to thank him for implementing this program. It was long overdue, and he invited me, and I actually spoke to the group, to the press about this announcement. And then on April 19th, he formally gave us the specific details about the program. The program was going to cost roughly about $3.8 million. And that would fully fund the program. And if that was approved by the county council, that would mean that the funding would be available July of this year, July 21. And we expected the program to be fully operational by December of 2021. Just to give you a little bit of history before I went a little bit too fast, we have had several pilot programs prior to this year. Over the last 3 to 4 years, Harry, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Over the last 3 to 4 years, we've had two or three pilot programs, and they were very successful. The body-worn camera program is not only something that the community is looking for or that supports, but also the police department supports it, the sheriff's department supports it, and the state attorney general's office supports it as well. So it's bipartisan support. It's not a Democrat or a Republican issue. And it's also highly supported by the law enforcement agencies here within Howard County. So everybody was on board, everybody was happy. Suddenly on May 17th, unbeknownst to us, in fact, we found out about it through a tweet. I mean, on May 17th through a tweet. And it was really very, very disappointing because we were part of that announcement. And we didn't even get a courtesy call to give us a heads up. But Dr. Ball on May 17th said he was going to take $1.7 million out of the $3.8 million program. The net effect of doing that is that the program was basically going to be gutted. There would be no funding available starting in July of this year. The program would not be fully operational in December. And they would only start, I think the program would be delayed almost a year, and they would start hiring people to start, planning for the program and so forth the last couple of months of the fiscal year 2022, and probably the program would not be operational until maybe the end of 2022. We find that to be highly unacceptable. I think he didn't keep his promise. It's very disappointing. And so as a result of that, there's several actions that we are planning to respond to. But let me be quiet. I've been talking a lot. I'd like to have Hiruy, who has been a very, very active member of our team. He's been with us since day one. He's a tremendous asset to the team. He's helped us technically in terms of setting up our website. He's very well connected in terms of tracing the budget and the funding and so forth and so on. So, Harry, I've been talking too much. Let me let you jump in. And if there's anything that I said that wasn't correct, or you feel that we need to add some more information about that, please join in.
Yeah, no, Ted. Overview of how we're here. Just to reiterate, there are a lot of accountability issues in Howard County. Whether it's it ranges. It ranges in extent and in severity. And as we were looking, as Ted mentioned, as we were looking at what can we do in Howard County. After George Floyd's murder, we saw that this was probably the low-hanging fruit that we can last was performed in 5-day pilot program. Led to it showed that it was successful. It showed that the results were according to the police chief Myers, the results were favorable, and so it was ready to go. So as it allowed us to focus on the body camera program. We were happy to see that it was announced, and as Ted mentioned, it was it was changed, it was cut last minute, and it was inexplicable to us about why that was. There were a lot of explanations given, but we were very disappointed. And we did not expect this to be the case, because $3.8 million is a drop in the bucket in a $2 billion budget. And so I always go back to this issue, and I always bring it around to what creates the problem in the first place. And I think, leading up to this, the county executive and, members of, at least three members, actually exactly three members of the county council have voted lockstep to give, tens of millions of dollars to developers, and, more than the $3.8 million that we need. And I don't think it would have happened had that not been, had the county executive been more judicious in how the money was being spent. So, this, just expressing my, my disappointment in this, because at a time when we see all these, justices on people of color at the hands of law enforcement, this was a very easy thing to implement. Again, it was $3.8 million. The principals of the agencies were ready to implement it. They appear ready to implement it. And so it was more about finding $3.8 million in a $2 billion budget. So, here we are.
So Hiruy, one other thing that I forgot to mention, and I think is important to note as well, in addition to the actions from Dr. Ball in terms of gutting the funding for the program, which is delaying it till next year, in addition to that, the county council has actually put together a contingency, put some money in contingency so that it's not even available even next year, and it's roughly about $400,000 to $500,000. So they are still deciding whether or not that money will come out of contingency. So that's another thing that we're looking at and we're concerned about as well. So there's two key things. Let's just bring it down to the bottom line. There's two key things that we are asking for. Number one, we want the county council to vote and pull that money out of contingency. We do not want this, we want to make sure that that funding is available. Number two, we want Dr. Ball to come back and find put back into the program $1.7 million that he took out. As Hiruy said, we have almost a $2 billion budget. We are a county that's one of the richest in the country. And there is absolutely no reason why, out of a $2 billion budget, he cannot find $1.7 million. It's just not acceptable, and it's illogical not to be able to find that amount of money in a $2 billion budget. The other thing that I want to mention before I do anything more, I really want to acknowledge our partners, because they have been working with us and supporting us for several months. And so it'll take a couple of minutes just to go through our partners, make sure that we give credit to them as well. We have the ACLU of Maryland, HoCo Coalition for Immigrant Justice, Howard County Citizens Association, Indivisible HoCo Maryland, Our Revolution Howard County, Progressive Maryland, the African American Community Roundtable of Howard County, the African American Community Roundtable of, I'm sorry, I said that already, the Chinese American Network for Diversity and Opportunity Can Do, Columbia Democratic Club, the African American Coalition of, that's the African American Coalition of Howard County and the Maryland Poor People's Campaign. So we have 11 organizations, and Jake, I'm happy to hear that your organization is supporting us as well. So the question that you may ask, so I'm going to just jump into here for a minute, but the question that you may ask is, what can people do now? Number one, they can follow us on our website, which is patf-hoco.com. Check us out. We put updates periodically in terms of what's the current status in terms of the body-worn camera program. We're also planning 2 days of action later in the month on the 19th and 20th. And we will have a website or a link on our website for people to join that email campaign, and they can participate with us in urging Dr. Ball and the County Council to release the contingency funding and also put back the $1.7 million that Dr. Ball pulled out of the budget. And we are also going to have a variety of ongoing campaigns throughout the year. We're not going to forget that he did not keep his promise, and we will continue to ask him to keep his promise for the balance of this year. So stay tuned. We're going to have numerous different types of activities to make sure that this is front and center. We do not feel that Howard County, as wealthy as it is, should not have body cameras for its police officers. Secondly, as Hiruy said, this is low-hanging fruit. This is only the first step. The next step is we should have community involvement in terms of oversight, in terms of the police, accountability, in our community. And this is not about being unhappy with police. This is about just accountability. Police Chief Myers has been very supportive. She has supported body cameras for police officers in Howard County. The Sheriff's Department is very supportive, and quite frankly, they were surprised when Dr. Ball made this abrupt announcement on May 17th. I don't think they got a lot of notice as well. So I think both the law enforcement organizations and the community are extremely disappointed with this abrupt, hard to explain, hard to understand action that Dr. Ball made. But we're hoping that he's going to make this right, come up with the funding, put the funding back in place so that we can implement this program as soon as possible and move on to other types of activities to make sure that the community is involved with police accountability in our community.
Well, thank you, Ted and Hiruy. You guys, both took all the words and questions out of my mouth there and basically covered everything I wanted us to cover, from, why are body cameras important? What is the history of them in Howard County? And, what was the recent hang up and where do we move to next? And it sounds like Police Accountability Task Force Howard County does not plan on giving up on the pressure. And I think that's a good choice. I think it's not a coincidence that right when you all form and start to apply pressure is when the county executive finally actually announces action on this, even if, the carpet was pulled from under our feet a little bit a couple months later. But so thank you for all the work Police Accountability Task Force has been doing. You can definitely count on Progressive Democrats of Howard County support on any future actions to get the ball rolling in the right direction on this. And before we wrap it up, there is just one question I do want to ask, to both or either of you, and that is, both of you said it several times, this is, a very minuscule portion of the county budget, relatively speaking. We are like the third wealthiest county in the country, according to median income. Most counties in the state, or a lot of counties in the state, already have police body cameras and have had them for years. And unlike a lot of these police reforms, this actually is popular with police officers. So my question is, and we'll probably never get the real answer from the county executive himself, but why do we think he is not funding this? Is it just a matter of priorities? Is it a matter of pettiness and not wanting to give activists a win? What do people think the reason is for him not doing this?
For me, Jake, I don't like to focus on that because it's impossible to get into somebody's head. Or I like to focus with what did he do as opposed to what he's thinking. So what's the outward action that he created, or the initiative that he created? Is that he basically gutted the program. Basically, he's not keeping his promise. As to why he did it, there could be 100 different reasons, and I think that's going in that could be a whole rabbit hole trying to find it out. I'd prefer to focus on the future and what we need to do. We need to get him to understand that.
Yeah.
Right. Well, just I think, looking into the future and, to sort of perhaps, I think answer that question a little bit is, it's in all the times that I have paid attention to what's going on in the county, it always ends up that a lot of these, budget issues are debated around the edges. So it's not about, hundreds of millions of dollars. It's usually around, 10, $5 to $10 million always, almost every year, that's what happens. And so what I hope will happen, and just to, echo what, Ted mentioned, is, it needs to be implemented right away. I think, the contingency, the $476,000 hinges on, some of these questions that were asked of the, I believe, the three agencies. They have, I believe the police and the sheriff have answered a lot of the questions, and things are, clarified with that. But we hope that, at least my hope is that, a lot of any unanswered questions that are remaining are, clarified, so that, because while we're concerned about accountability, in general, and so we want to make sure that, some of the questions posed by council members are, clarified by, at least from my following of what's going on, by the, by the state's, attorney's, office. So, so we want them to work together, figure out what's going on, answer the questions, clarify, based on that, remove the contingency, and then implement it right away. Because, going back to the question of why does it happen, is always around the edges of the $5 or $10 million. And so my concern is that, it could, it may happen again. And so, we don't want that to happen. We don't want this, we don't want to see this, happen again in terms of a delay. We need this to happen as soon as possible. Fund the $1.7 million, and let's implement it right away.
Yeah. Well, I think we can leave it at that. Be on the lookout, everybody, for an email campaign for further actions to apply this pressure strategically on the county executive and the county council to get these body cams fully funded ASAP, and at the very least not delayed another year, which would be completely unacceptable. So yes, go to PATF-HoCo.com, check out their website, follow them on social media, follow Progressive Democrats of Howard County on social media, follow us on Twitter at Progress HoCo. Check out our website, HoCoProgressives.com, sign up for our email list, like us on Facebook, et cetera, et cetera. I think we are going to call that an episode. Thank you everybody for tuning in, and thank you, Ted and Hiruy, for joining me this evening.
And thank you, Jake, for the opportunity to tell you a little bit about our group. We appreciate it.
No problem. Bye.
Take care.